Tonight, passengers from this province describe a rough landing at the Halifax airport.
I kind of looked out my window and you could see the flames coming from the, engine or the wing at that point.
A flight from St. John's to Halifax had a fiery landing on Saturday as the plane skidded down the runway.
They're called aircraft movements, and the Area Control Center in Gander, run by NAV Canada, has seen 500,000 of them crossing the North Atlantic. That story tonight on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Chrissy Holmes. Well, investigators are still trying to figure out what caused a rough landing for a flight between St. John's and Halifax over the weekend. The Air Canada flight, which was operated by PAL Airlines, hit the runway hard upon landing at Halifax on Saturday night. For the coach of two Newfoundland and Labrador rugby teams, the accident was a lesson in how to stay calm in a crisis. Here and Now's Arlette Lazarenko has the details.
It's an airline passenger's worst nightmare. A crash, skidding down the runway, flames out by the wing.
We started shaking a lot more than it kind of regularly does on a landing. I kind of looked out my window and you could see the flames coming from the, engine or the wing at that point. So we were starting to slide a little bit on the runway. We had some flames coming on the outside. It started to get a bit of smoke inside the cabin.
Lavelle was keeping cool for his rugby players. The teenagers were set to play in a holiday tournament in Halifax.
My first concern was for my players and the players involved. So just wanted to make sure that they were as calm and kind of controlled as they could be when we were getting off.
It's not clear what happened. Provincial Airlines flies the route under contract to Air Canada, and neither company is talking to the media. The St. John's Airport Authority says that night on Saturday, a crew inspected the runway here in St. John's and they found airplane debris. That material is now part of the Transport Canada investigation of Air Canada Flight 2259. As for the rugby players, their sports gear is stuck on the plane, but the Team Newfoundland will be playing.
Players from across the other provinces have kind of reached out to our place and said, we'll bring you shorts, we'll bring you socks. So it's pretty cool to see people from the rugby community kind of helping each other out in this situation.
The team's first games kicked off on Sunday. The coach says that wild ride down the runway brought them a lot closer as a team. Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
It's a major milestone for NAV Canada. The agency's control centre in Gander handles all the flights in the air over the Atlantic. And in 2024, the NAV Canada Gander crew broke a record. CBC's Troy Turner has that story.
Air traffic crossing the North Atlantic has pretty well doubled since 1997, making the NAV Canada operation here busier than ever.
The demand for air travel between Europe and North America is probably the highest demand for operators today for them to contend with and provide service to their customers. So for us, it's all about providing a service to those operators the best we can, but more importantly, to make sure that we're doing it as safe as possible.
The Gander Area Control Center handles all air traffic crossing the North Atlantic. When aircraft enter that airspace, they communicate with staff here. Each time that happens, it's called a movement. In 2024, they hit a milestone, tracking 500,000 flights. That's a lot of planes and a lot of work.
The North Atlantic is actually the busiest oceanic airspace in the world. It's literally the highway, that we call it, between North America and Europe. In the summer, we see upwards of 1,700 flights a day. And of course, as you move through the seasons, it decreases by the time you get in the midwinter, and then it starts to increase again. So it's a yearly trend.
Staff at the control center in Gander work around the clock, 365 days a year.
There's two distinct flows. It's called the eastbound flow. So that's the flights that go from North America over to Europe. And that happens at the nighttime. And then you have the westbound flow, which is our daytime flow, which is the flights coming back from Europe over to North America. We're actually busier 2 o'clock in the morning than we are 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
The 500,000th flight was a Lufthansa 348, an Airbus A340. It crossed the ocean on December 24th, the same day as another special visitor.
We want to make sure that St. Nick is able to travel around the country very safely, not interfere with any of our passenger travel, of course. So really, it's making sure that we're taking care of our customers, but we're also taking care of the children so that they get all those little goodies when they wake up on Christmas morning.
Things aren't slowing down here at NAV Canada. Over the coming years, Fleming expects to see another 100,000 movements added to that annual tally, making things even busier for the staff and the operation here. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
It's the sixth night of Hanukkah, and dozens of people, both inside and outside of the Jewish community, gathered in St. John's last night to celebrate the holiday. Here's how the Chabad of Newfoundland's annual menorah lighting looked.
So we got together in honor of the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Tonight is the fifth night of Hanukkah. So we lit our big 8-foot menorah, something that every Jewish person does in their house. Here we did it publicly. Invited the Jewish community and the wider community. Everybody was welcome. We were offering complimentary donuts, hot drinks. This year also we gave out special magnets that said, "I'm a lamplighter," encouraging people to do one extra random act of kindness, help on a stranger, help somebody else. I always I deliver a positive message connected to Hanukkah. I think it's very important to have understanding. As people say, you can't hate somebody that you know. We want to show people what we're about. We want to show that we are inclusive, and that when the Jewish community thinks about goodness and kindness, when we think about doing good for the world, that's a global vision. We include everybody, and we want people to come, see some of the things that we do, see some of the goodness that we do, and become an active supporter of the community. We had a packed house, like you said. We've definitely seen more interest over the years. And I would say most of the people that came are not Jewish, and that is absolutely wonderful to see their support for the community, their interest in Judaism. It's such a beautiful thing to see.
A nearly century-old cathedral in Corner Brook has entered the digital age. It's known for its stunning architecture, and that hasn't changed. This upgrade is all about the sound, thanks to a new instrument installed just in time for Christmas. Here Now's Leila Baudouin has that story.
I think the sound is phenomenal, and I'm just so pleased to be playing an organ that has a sound I've dreamt of playing with for many, many years. So this is very much like the kind of organ that I first studied on way back in the 1960s and 70s.
Doreen Klassen thought her playing days were over. She moved to Corner Brook from Indiana for a teaching position at the college.
Tossed out some of my music files saying, well, your church music days are over. You're going to teach anthropology and folklore in Corner Brook. Bye-bye music. Didn't turn out that way.
Instead, Klassen found herself here, the Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist. They had an organ, needed an organist, and she was ready, and went on to play this pipe organ for 24 years until now. Klassen had bigger dreams for a much bigger sound. That's where this state-of-the-art 3-computered organ came into play.
It's been a long time coming. It means a lot to the whole congregation, but I know it has special value for her.
For years, Klassen searched far and wide for an organ that would fill the church with sounds she remembered. Playing and listening to the piano and organ all her life, only prices were out of reach.
And I thought, I'm going to be 137 before I raise enough money for a $300,000 instrument.
Until Klassen found Phoenix Organs. Located in Ontario, the company makes the Cadillacs of organs. Costing $140,000, the church community raised money to buy it. Years saving with a sound these two call priceless.
and it's supposed to look old.
Stained to match the wood that lines the church walls, with rosewood keys imported from Italy, 70 different stops or sounds that the company flew into Corner Brook to test out themselves.
We call that voicing.
To make these sounds so lifelike, Phoenix used something called Raspberry Pi. It's the same digital platform used in the International Space Program.
So you can hear the little puff of air. We can really say our organ is out of this world.
And we're really happy to have it in place. It's home.
Layla Baudouin, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter is dead. Carter grew up on a peanut farm in Georgia, served in the U.S. military, and was Georgia's governor. He came to the White House in 1977, offering a contrast to Richard Nixon and the Watergate scandal. The Camp David Accord between Israel and Egypt won him the Nobel Prize. But the Iran Revolution, its hostage-taking of U.S. embassy staff and the failed attempt to rescue them, left his popularity in tatters ahead of the next election. After the presidency, Carter took up various benevolent causes. This past October, he turned 100. Well, drone operators across Canada will see some big changes over the next year. New regulations come into effect, and one will allow drones to fly beyond the visual line of sight. The CBC's Georgie Smythe looks at how that will make a difference.
Drone's going to take off on its own.
Canada's skies are opening up. There's new rules on the way for drone users, making longer, more complex flights easier to do.
We've seen the technology become more sophisticated. We've seen drones become larger and more capable. And there's been a call for more regulations to enable routine operations of what industry would call beyond visual line of sight.
Beyond visual line of sight, that's the term for flights when a drone leaves the pilot's field of view and flies kilometers away to a totally different location, enabling things like large-scale drone deliveries, aerial surveys, and anything that could be done remotely by drone.
Until now, it would have taken months to get permission from the regulator for these kinds of flights.
Beyond visual line of sight, that's a whole new realm.
The rules will be most lax in sparsely populated places, meaning Canada's smaller, more remote communities could stand to gain the most as companies seize on this new potential.
So once the command is given to drop the payload, it's an automated process.
Right now we're talking about a lot of data intelligence services where we're collecting data and doing aerial surveillance or mapping or whatever. The next evolution will be where we're using drones for moving middle-mile cargo.
Or even life-saving cargo like medicine could fill gaps in local infrastructure like pharmacies, as this pilot project found out, trialling deliveries to a First Nations community in northern BC.
This technology holds great promise to kind of close, hopefully eliminate the gap in access to medical supplies.
For many in the industry, the future use cases for drones are impossible to fully realise just yet. And don't expect drone-filled skies that soon. While the laws will be published shortly, they won't officially launch till fall. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, the weather over the last little bit has been pretty decent. Our temperatures today topping out, a little bit above seasonal. We're generally sitting near or above zero by a couple of degrees, and then up across Labrador generally sitting into the minus single digits as well. Now, that is going to change as we head through the next couple of days. It is certainly warmer than yesterday by a couple of degrees anyway, but we are going to see some milder air continue for the next couple of days. That is going to bring some rainy weather to parts of the province as well, particularly across the island. Labrador, more of a wintry mix, and freezing rain warnings actually are in place. I'll get into all the details coming up.
here's how it looked at Marble Mountain in Steady Brook earlier today. There was lots of fresh powder early in the year, but the ski hill could look much different come tomorrow. With rain in the forecast, the hill's opening day will depend on how much rain falls, of course. Marble Mountain staff held meetings today with an update coming soon on when people can expect to hit the slopes. And Ashley, of course, joins us now with an update, and no doubt you're following that story closely, Ashley. I mean, that's happened the last number of years, hasn't it?
We certainly have been seeing rain definitely later in the season for sure. And unfortunately, we're going to hang on to some of these milder temperatures as well. Let's take a look at where we're sitting today. Generally sitting a couple of degrees above zero, about 3 degrees above zero in Corner Brook, in fact, this afternoon. And temperatures up across Labrador generally sitting into the minus single digits. Now, this is well above where you should be sitting for this time of year, that's for sure. But, you know, we're also seeing this next area of low pressure bring in a couple of warnings. Freezing rain warnings are in place for Lab West through to Eagle River. And then Nain, you are currently under a snowfall warning. And then we've got some wind warnings in place as well across the island. Wreck house wind warning, and then we've got a wind warning for the Bay St. George area. So essentially, we are going to see the winds pick up as we see our next weather maker move in. Those gusts will be over about 100 kilometers per hour, especially for those of you that are prone to southeasterlies. And the reason for that is this area of low pressure. Now, it is going to track west of Newfoundland and Labrador, but it is going to bring that messy weather right along with it, encountering some of that colder air to the north, hence that freezing rain warning. But it is bringing much milder air, and that will continue essentially through the night tonight. You'll see that transition through to freezing rain, eventually rain for western portions of Labrador. Then we'll see that wintry mix head towards central areas of Labrador and then eventually the coast. Now, Nain, like I said, you're sitting under a snowfall warning. So generally, you're looking at quite a bit of snow, actually, as we head through into Tuesday. And then we'll see that freezing rain head towards the coast by the time we get into Tuesday morning. And then even across the island, if temperatures are a little chilly, we could see this start as a little bit of freezing rain as well, and then quickly change over to rain as those temperatures climb up above zero through your Tuesday. And then eventually those showers will head towards central and eastern areas of the island, but not until it looks like through the overnight period. So as far as the snowfall amounts go, generally 20 to 30, maybe even 35 centimeters of snow is possible for the north coast. Other than that, much less snow expected by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon. And here's looking at your temperatures for the day tomorrow. Your New Year's Eve day forecast will be sitting somewhere between 2 to 5 degrees. So mild air, southeasterlies will be gusting somewhere between 30 to 60 kilometers per hour. But again, in those wind warnings, especially those areas prone to southeasterlies, you will see those winds gusting a little higher than that, likely closer to 100 kilometers per hour. Towards the coast of Labrador, your temperatures will be hovering around 1 degree. Otherwise, 2 or 3 will be the daytime highs tomorrow. And again, southeasterlies will be gusting somewhere between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Now we head into the evening hours, your New Year's Eve forecast. Conditions around midnight, looking at somewhere between 1 to 4 or 5 degrees as our overnight lows. And again, some showers. Now, I don't think those showers will make it to St. John's until later on, like well past midnight, but certainly still the chance there. Flurries for the north and west coast as well. And then as far as the rest of the forecast goes into Wednesday, going to continue to hang on to this mild air as well. Chances here and there of a few showers, but overall 2 to 5 degrees up across Labrador. 1 to 3 as well. Minus single digits will be the story for those of you in the west. Long range forecast showing that mild air continuing until we get to about Saturday. And then we'll see a drop in temperatures. That'll be the story for central Newfoundland. And then western Newfoundland, you'll see some snow, which is a good thing for Marble Mountain, but that won't happen till the weekend. And then for eastern Labrador, you're looking at temperatures hovering into the minus or to the single digits above zero, a little bit below for western Labrador. Our weather photo of the day is a lovely shot here of Christmas Day. Thank you so much for that. Andrew, if you have any weather photos, send to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Well, we're hoping you can ring in your new year with us. We're going to be hosting an epic Canada-wide live countdown, and it's all going to start in this province at Kitty Vitty Brewery. Join us for Canada Live Countdown 2025, starting 9:30 Island time, 9 o'clock in most parts of Labrador on CBC Television and on CBC Radio 1. A tech-savvy Mount Pearl baker is mixing up something sweet in her home's kitchen. She's using a 3D printer to make unique, personalized gifts. Elizabeth Whitten has that story.
Jennifer Barrett putters around her kitchen, heating chocolate. She makes something perfectly suited to the festive season, and it's her own creation.
This is a fun part.
They're customized chocolates. She uses a 3D printer to design and print one-of-a-kind molds.
I designed it with my logo in different sort of Christmassy poses, and it's meant to be broken into pieces and shared, or to keep for yourself and snack on throughout the day.
Barrett owns Snowy Owl Bake Shop, and she takes custom orders. She says her chocolate molds add a special touch to an already sweet gift.
It's a unique thing. You can't just go in a shop and buy it yourself. And it'd be very difficult to mass produce something like that on your own if you didn't have a background working in chocolate or have the tools to do it.
Here's how it works. First, Barrett sketches out a design. Software turns it into something her 3D printer understands. That prints out the mold. Using her vacuum form machine, she creates another mold that she can fill with melted chocolate. Then the entire thing is popped into the fridge to cool. And that's when hungry reporters get a snack.
Let's, I'm a chocolate connoisseur, so let's see. That was a nice crunch. I'm not sure, I think I need to take another.
Barrett started her bake shop a few years ago and recently decided to make it her full-time career.
Well, I've had a few years now where I've worked in a couple bakeries and a chocolate shop, and I also went to art school many years ago, and this is kind of my way of fusing those two together.
When she first started creating chocolate molds, she used clay, making smiling pumpkins, grinning skulls, a cheery ghost, and birds. Then her partner bought a 3D printer.
It's quicker in some ways, but it comes with other challenges because the material is softer and I need to use silicone and plaster to translate that into a more sturdy mold.
For now, Barrett sells her baked goods online and at the St. John's Farmers Market. One day, she'd like to have her own shop. Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.